The dark secrets of Starbucks. What's really in your cup? Do you think Starbucks is just a cozy corner to grab your favorite coffee? Think again. Behind the inviting aroma and the iconic green logo, a different brew simmers. One filled with secrets, schemes, and behind-the-scenes influence. A world you wouldn't recognize, aimed to make you part with your cash, one venti at a time. Intrigued? Pour yourself a cup of coffee and let's uncover what's lurking behind that friendly barista's smile. Today, we delve deep into the underbelly of Starbucks, a brand loved by millions yet covered in mysteries darker than its boldest espresso. You see, it isn't just about serving coffee, it's about serving an agenda. From the coffee fields in Colombia, where farmers get a fraction of the profits, to the barista's pressure to upsell at your local Starbucks, every corner of this empire is calculated. And you think they got your name wrong on the cup. Well, what if we told you they did that on purpose? What you're about to discover might make your next Frappuccino taste a lot less sweet. So ask yourself, are you ready to swallow the hard truth? What will you choose? The comfort of ignorance or the discomfort of reality? Let's spill the beans. Chapter 1, Fading Dreams. 1971. Seattle's Pike Place Market was where it all began. Starbucks, the little coffee shop that dreamed big. It wasn't just about selling cups of joe. It was meant to be a third place between work and home. A haven where conversations brewed as smoothly as the coffee. Aromatic blends of Arabica beans and the ambitions of its founders filled the air. Then Howard Schultz entered the picture, but not immediately as the savior some would later claim him to be. Initially, he was simply a curious customer, later becoming the director of retail operations and marketing. But a trip to Italy would change not just Schultz, but the entire trajectory of Starbucks. Schultz had just returned from Milan and other Italian cities, intrigued by the intimate espresso bars that seemed to occupy every street corner. In Italy, coffee wasn't just caffeine, it was culture. Schultz didn't just bring a bag of Italian coffee beans, he brought back a cappuccino-scented dream. A dream that, for a while, seemed to become a reality as Starbucks began its journey toward becoming a global household name. When he proposed turning Starbucks into an Italian-style cafe, the original founders resisted, seeing their brand as a coffee bean retailer. Undeterred, Schultz left to start his chain, Il Giornale, bringing his Italian cafe vision to life. In 1987, seizing an opportunity, he bought Starbucks for $3.8 million. Merging it with Il Giornale and setting the stage for expansion. At first, the dream was alive and well. Under Howard Schultz, Starbucks was more than just a typical cafe. It was a mosaic of experiences. From hosting poetry slams to fostering casual philosophical debates, each Starbucks location was a universe unto itself. When Schultz stepped down as CEO, it was not a retreat, but a strategic move to focus on global expansion. He aimed to make Starbucks not just a household name, but a global identity. Astonishingly short amount of time, Starbucks was opening 7 new stores a day. By 2008, the coffee empire had over 17,000 stores worldwide. But something began to change, and it wasn't on the seasonal menu. The expansion, electrifying at first, began to reveal its dark side. The dream was fading. The Italian experience that Schultz romanticized started to feel more like a distant memory, lost in a tornado of relentless growth. The focus pivoted. Suddenly, it wasn't about your story or your favorite book. It was about expansion, revenues, and market penetration. As the scent of freshly brewed coffee still filled the air, a different aroma began to mix in. A scent that wasn't so sweet. All of a sudden, Starbucks seemed to adopt a new tactic: manipulation. But who was truly affected by this shift? The farmers? The workers? The loyal customers? You probably already know the answer. So go ahead, pour another cup. We're just getting started. Chapter 2, The Starbucks Paradox. And where paying over $4 for coffee felt like lunacy, the 2008 financial crash took a sledgehammer to Starbucks' grand illusion. Its stock nosedived 50%. But don't be fooled, Wall Street wasn't Starbucks' only villain. This crisis just tore off the bandage, revealing deep wounds hidden by years of explosive growth. An email from Howard Schultz, the CEO, leaked to the public, confessing the ugly truth. Tens of thousands of unsatisfied customers were disappointed with Starbucks and were not willing to overpay for their coffee. The quick growth had watered down what Starbucks was all about. Facing bankruptcy, the company had to act fast. Schultz, once the champ of global expansion, switched gears. His emergency plan was to hit the brakes on the expansion. Schultz stunned everyone by closing every US Starbucks store to retrain its employees by paying a shocking price of $7 million. His vision? Restored the lost spark. The scent of freshly ground coffee beans, the sight of baristas crafting each cup by hand. Out went the automatic espresso machines that made drinks but killed the romantic theater of coffee making. Schultz reinstated in-house coffee grinding, resurrecting its aroma that once defined every Starbucks visit. Starbucks managed to claw its way back, but let's ask ourselves, at what cost? Peel back the curtain and you'll find Starbucks doing what it does best. No, it's not brewing your perfect cappuccino. If it were all about the experience, as Schultz once proclaimed, how did we end up with a still growing empire of 33,000 stores worldwide? The shocker here is the numbers. $32.3 billion in revenue in 2023 and a workforce of 330,000 people. When you scale these dizzying heights, something's gotta give. You can't mass produce perfection. When Starbucks switched gears, turning its eyes again to expansion, changes were inevitable. They rolled out new tactics. Tactics we'll soon expose that catapulted them to these heights. But if you think this fairy tale revolves around the baristas, the farmers, and you, the loyal customer, you're in for a reality check. The way Starbucks has manipulated us into craving more is almost too unbelievable to accept. It seems the blueprint was right in front of us. We were just too blind to see it. We're diving deeper. What we find may unsettle your next coffee run. Chapter 3. The Siren's Brew. The first tactic that Starbucks use, which reveals that they're not solely focused on customer experience, is something you need to understand first and foremost. Starbucks is not about selling coffee. Yes, the Starbucks you know and love isn't really in the coffee business. Don't believe me? Let's delve into something known as the Frappuccino effect, similar to McDonald's and a nod to those who've seen the movie The Founder. When a new Starbucks appears in your neighborhood, it doesn't just bring lattes and Wi-Fi, it brings property values hikes so dramatic they drastically changed the real estate market. From 1997 to 2014, while the average American home grew in value by 65%, those lucky or unfortunate, depending on your perspective, houses within a quarter mile of a Starbucks saw their value skyrocket by 96%. How? Because Starbucks isn't just picking any corner or strip mall. They've got a team. Oh yes, a full-fledged team that scours demographic and property data to pinpoint locations that aren't just profitable, but downright transformative for the area. And once Starbucks plants its green mermaid flag, it's over. Other businesses, even competitors, flood the area, making it buzz with newfound popularity. A self-fulfilling prophecy? Absolutely. Starbucks essentially gentrifies a neighborhood, sometimes sparking protests and uproars for stripping areas of their local culture. But has it slowed them down? Not one bit. They're set on conquering new terrains, rolling into town, and let's be real, often crushing the little guy along the way. But we're just scratching the surface here. Do you know that handy Starbucks app? Well, it's not just for ordering ahead or racking up those rewards points for a free latte. Behind the scenes, Starbucks is sitting on a shocking $1.5 billion in balances from that app. Money you've already given them. Yeah, let that sink in. That digital wallet on your phone is part of a financial reservoir that's more loaded than most US banks have on hand. Unlike banks, Starbucks isn't required to keep reserves, freeing them to use that cash any way they see fit. We're talking about interest-free loans powering their empire's expansion. I told you we're just getting started. You'd think you're buying coffee, but you're actually funding Starbucks' world domination. In between sips of your overpriced latte, consider that your hard-earned money supports not just the caffeine fix, but a complex corporate agenda. Although Starbucks consistently graces Fortune magazine's list of best companies to work for, it's not always the fairy tale workplace for their partners. That's what they call their employees. In 2013, Starbucks had to shell out $3 million to settle a lawsuit from these so-called partners who alleged they weren't even allowed basic work breaks. Flash forward, and what's the latest gripe? The erratic work schedules dropped like hot coffee spills, giving people barely any time to plan daycare or school commitments. So much for work-life balance, huh? Now, to be fair, the company says they're changing these practices. They do offer an enticing healthcare package. When it comes to individual treatment, the jury's still out. Numerous complaints over the years have stained their reputation like a coffee ring on a table. However, the story doesn't end there. Starbucks isn't all about ethical coffee, supporting communities, and uplifting farmers. You walk into a Starbucks and the narrative is clear. We're more than just a coffee company. We're a partner in ethical sourcing. Sounds noble, right? But let's add some clarity to that fuzzy picture. Back in 2005, Ethiopian coffee growers thought they were on the same ethical page as Starbucks. They decided to safeguard their future by trademarking their business names, a move you'd think a responsible partner like Starbucks would support. Starbucks, the so-called good guy of fair trade, sneakily grabbed those trademarks right from under the farmers' noses. If the farmers hadn't caught on, they would have been robbed, no joke, of $80 million every single year. So the next time Starbucks talks about their ethical sourcing, you might want to wonder, ethical for whom? But the rabbit hole goes deeper, and the Green Siren song has more verses. Over a quarter of their money flow doesn't even smell like coffee. It's as if they use our coffee obsession as a Trojan horse to slip into every nook and cranny of our lives. Your music playlist, the sandwiches you can't resist, even the tea you sip on. They're not just hanging around for a quick caffeine fix. They're settling in for the long game, outsmarting us all. Once proudly a coffee company, they've since dropped the word coffee from their logo back in 2011, as if tipping their hat to a scheme well played. They wanted money and they got greedy. But let's not kid ourselves. They got it big. Oh, and the marketing geniuses pulling the strings behind the scenes? They deserve a standing ovation. You know those silly misspellings on your coffee cup? The name you laugh at and share on Instagram? It's not incompetence. It's tactical. Each time you post that pic, each time you giggle at the absurdity, you're broadcasting the siren's call, hook, line, and sinker. And just like that, you've become a foot soldier in Starbucks' ever-expanding empire without even realizing it. You pay more than $10 for your Grande coffee, which, by the way, packs as much caffeine as 4 cans of Red Bull. And what's your reward for this loyalty? The privilege of giving them free advertising when they intentionally mistake your name. Kind of ridiculous when you truly think about it. When the curtain falls and the last coffee bean is ground, Starbucks will have you believe you're sipping on a tall glass of ethical responsibility and customer delight. But peel back the green and white facade, and what we've uncovered is a far more complex one filled with ethical questions and business moves that might just make you think twice before your next order. So go ahead and savor that next cup, but know that the taste may come with layers you never suspected. The choice is yours. Will you continue to sip on illusion, or dare to question what's really behind that green logo?